we're back today with the Pentium 2 computer. This is the one that wouldn't network anymore. So I've just got it up on the bench here, and same configuration as when we left it last. Got the token ring card installed over here. I had it here originally, but that didn't work. USB port here, etc., etc. Graphics card, modern power supply, and then let's see if I can actually show it to you. It's a bit hard to see, but the actual boot drive for this thing is what I'm thinking we'll swap. So if I just move some cables out of the way here, right down there, this is the SSD. It's a hyperdisk DMV 340 16 gig. So I'm gonna take a look at, I should have another one, and we should be able to just swap that. I have another one that has the original install for the server installation. I found a new SSD, and well, let's just try to power it up, and I'll set you up with the monitor over here. Got a beep. That's usually a good sign. Helps if you turn the monitor on. And it found nothing. And we found the drive and the token ring ROM, same as before. This might just blue screen. We have completely different hardware installed. Let's just try a reinstall then. You know, I'd forgotten how long it took to start this install from a CD-ROM. Networking components being installed. In the meantime, I had to restart the second stage install because I forgot a quirk of using a USB keyboard mouse combo is that it works as long as you don't have a plug-and-play OS installed. But Windows 2000 installs USB drivers. They take over from the BIOS, meaning the BIOS is no longer emulating a PS2 mouse and keyboard, but during this part of the install, it does not actually enable USB mouse and keyboard support, which means that it works initially. Then by the time it gets to the like region locale settings, your mouse and keyboard no longer work. We're just going to go with typical settings. First boot. So let's see here. Just start with the important stuff. Now this is looking promising. All I'm gonna do is I'm gonna click this thing because I like always seeing it, and then the all important rename, because I like to know which adapter's in use. High security, as always, and it's working. Let's map the network drive, because that has basically all the important stuff, and we're going to call this the T drive, which is what I traditionally call it, and there we go. Also, in speaking of important stuff here, let's see. I have a mouse, I'm not using it. Obviously, we always leave that one on, leave that one, turn that one off, and then we turn this one on. And why don't we start with a display driver? And I mean, already you can see the blazing fast performance of a 16 megabit token ring link. This would probably take several days to launch on 10 megabit Ethernet. Although, fun fact, I did actually, just for kicks, install a gigabit network card in this computer when I was first setting it up. And yeah, the performance was about 12 megabits. Okay, I'll hit space on that one instead of enter. But I'm thinking the next thing to do really is to try a performance test. It's not as good as the classic D-Gauss, but it's not bad either. I do kind of like that. You can see there, it was going at about 1600. And then I know that this SSD has occasionally some issues. So it appears to be stabilizing at around sort of 1.5 megabytes per second, which is about 12 megabits per second, which is not terrible. That's pretty good utilization for a 16 megabit link. But yeah, less than 10 milliseconds. I believe that will be about 6 milliseconds. This is the 486 DX2 computer. It's dual booting Windows 95 and Windows NT4. And I've got a Turbo 16/4 IBM ISA card installed for Token Ring. Currently, it appears to be on Ring, but I actually had to do something kind of weird to get this to work. But I'm going to log in now, and I'll just type my password here. I definitely didn't just hit Control a bunch of times to pretend like I typed the password. In order to get this far, I've had to get a driver diskette because Windows 95 does not have drivers for this card. Windows 98 might have drivers. And that let it detect the card, but it didn't actually work. And I actually had to go and use a diagnostic diskette that I was able to get an image of from IBM using an old site that mirrors old IBM stuff. Let's see, I'm going to need to use the mouse. So we got an old command window here. Let's see. There you go. We're on Token Ring. I didn't start filming until I'd already got this working. Let's just try and accessing a network share. How do you do that in Windows 95? I've never been a Windows 95 type of guy. Can I just do this? Does that work? It does work. Look at that. 486 on Token Ring. We're also going to have to test NT4, but I expect that that'll work. Now we can go in here. We got all our files. We have this. These are the drivers disks for the Token Ring Turbo 16/4 card. And there's a bunch of these, and each one of these is a floppy drive writing tool that only runs in 16-bit Windows and maybe OS2, I guess. So I had to use the Pentium 2 computer to actually write the floppy and then boot from it. Not this thing. I think it's going. So it's saying about 4 minutes. You can see the mouse gets real sluggish when you start copying files and stuff. It's a serial mouse, so it's pretty slow. I'm just going to cancel that. So let's see, that's 100 megabytes. It's estimated about 240 seconds for 100 megabytes, about 400 kilobytes per second, which is not awful for a 486. I don't have numbers for Ethernet. It's faster than the Mac 2 by a good margin. It's about twice as fast as the Mac 2 in that case. There might be some rounding errors as well in that case. What I'm going to do, I've got the unbranded floppy here, is we're going to boot off that again. And it's PC-DOS as usual. This is the same utility. When I plugged this card in, it did not light up at all. It was completely dead, except being detected by the plug-and-play system in Windows 95. NT4 didn't really seem to notice it. And there were no lights on it and nothing at all. Right now it's blinking green LED, which I guess means like uninitialized. What I had to do was I had to boot this, and you have two choices, and it's not really obvious which one you want, but I figured diagnostics. That makes sense. If you start the diagnostics in that state, it doesn't work. It doesn't find the card. And I guess there's some kind of configuration somewhere. Maybe it's stored in the card. I don't know. I don't really have the manuals for this card. I might be able to dig it up now that I know about that driver archive. What you have to do, it does tell you this when you run it. You have to start the ISA configuration using LAN-AID-C. And you can just hit enter. And I guess this is something you can install in DOS mode. Now you get a prompt, and hit /view. No, it's /help I meant. We'll see what this does. I don't know what this does. Yeah, there you go. So this is what came up previously when it started working as well. If you hit help, you get a bazillion different options. What you have to do, you can hit escape here to freeze this, so at least you can see what's going on. But apparently there's some configuration that has to be done. So what it tells you to do is to hit /fast equals config only. That comes up with the info you saw there in /view. And once I did that, the card started blinking. It was completely dead before this. But my guess is there's a configuration stored in the network card that's computer specific. Now it's really weird that the drivers in Windows can't auto configure this for you. What I'm going to do, I haven't tried this yet, is power cycle a computer. See what happens. Oh yeah, card's blinking. Blinking its sort of green-orange pattern that's standard for Token Ring when it's not initialized. And let's just try it in NT. I already have drivers installed, so it should work. Yeah, NT4 is kind of slow on this thing. Really, NT4, you really want a Pentium 2 or something, ideally. Let's see. I think it actually worked. It did a station insertion, so it's definitely linked up. Oh, something's happening now. And there you go. And I do like that it actually says Token Ring adapter here, and it's got the same IP address as the other one, so it's the same DHCP. Because it's the same MAC address, or user device, I forget what it's called for Token Ring. It's not a MAC address. How do I network drive in NT4? Network neighborhood might work. This has a WINS server, so it should be able to auto-locate. There you go. It's seeing the network, it's seeing the Pentium 2 computer and the server. So if I open this, it should work because everything has the same username and no password. And there we go. Network drive mounted on Windows NT4 and Windows 95 with a IBM Token Ring card. Yeah. Apparently my user is default. And I mean, we could try copying the same file. How do I get to the desktop now? Control W doesn't work in NT4. I guess because NT4 doesn't have the like plus pack and OSR2 stuff. This saying 5 minutes. It wouldn't be surprising if NT4 was actually a bit slower in general, because it's a larger OS. Though it did go down to 3 minutes there, so I guess that's not terrible. Yeah, and it's just pegged on the CPU. This should be in system. Huh, I guess it's an Explorer, and Task Manager is taking up about half my CPU time. It's just spent updating the Task Manager. I've tried to like internet on it, but it doesn't really work. We could try to fire up RetroZilla, and then we could try setting up a proxy, because I have a proxy. Yeah, this is gonna take a while. Yeah, I'm seeing why people just lived with Windows 95. Okay, I think the proxy is set up. Haven't tested it yet. I think it's doing something. Yeah, it's doing something. I mean, I would say the Mac 2 is faster than this, but that is mostly down to software, I think. I'm gonna reload it and see if the proxy lights up. That's on my main workstation. I've got the logs. Yeah, okay, I can see it's accessing it. So yeah, that's running through the old world server, which is acting as an IP router for this token ring subnet, as well as DNS and DHCP wins. Basically everything you can do with a Windows server is being done on there. And it fetched the page in about a second, and it takes the rest of the time it's just spent rendering it. So I think anything with images is going to be just unbearably slow. Now this looks terrible, the colors, and that's because what's being loaded, it's at a PNG file, and it is a PNG file, but this has been run through the Web1 proxy, and one of the things I do is I convert it to a fixed resolution, which is a number of pixels. So it's converted to the equivalent of about 1024 by 768 number of pixels, or about 600,000 pixels. It then converts it to a GIF. If it's like a PNG or anything modern that's lossless, it gets converted into a GIF file with a 256 color dithering, and that's what you're seeing there. But all the pixel grids and stuff should mostly be correct. Okay, we're booted back in Windows 95. Token ring is working. And yeah, you can see this is actually kind of usable. I think this is IE 5.5. Now, how do I set up proxies in here? It's not under advanced, is it? It might be LAN settings. Yeah, there you go. Now, tab. And I guess we'll bypass for local. Now let's try 68k.news again. I guess I had caps lock on, but that should work. Yeah. Now Explorer 5.5 is probably a pretty good choice for a computer of this vintage. You can see that performance overall is just way better on 95. Even the latest version of Windows 95. Yeah, I mean, just look at the performance here. This is actually usable. This is definitely faster than the Mac 2, which you would expect. The processor is literally running twice as fast. Plus, you can hit Control W to close stuff. I don't know if we have NS lookup on this. No, not surprising. The IP system in Windows 95 is pretty terrible. Like, you don't even have IP config. You have to use WinIPCFG. if you want IP configuration. And I mean, I guess in a way this is more user-friendly than, you know, the IP config stuff. I mean, you can see all the settings. It's pretty good utility, really. You can see the latency appears to be much better, though that might just be, you know, a difference in how it's being timed or something. 1 to 2 milliseconds. That's pretty good, actually. And 15 milliseconds to the internet. That's pretty acceptable. Let's take a look at the hardware next. We're not going to go into too much detail on this. It's not that interesting, I think. Like a lot of people have seen 486s before. You can see here, this is the glorious token ring card, Turbo 16.4. That's some kind of 3-com Ethernet card. It's an Etherlink 3. And then if we go down, you might be able to notice that this has Visa local bus here. So we have, this is like a chipset card. It has floppy and serial controllers. And down the bottom here is some kind of Cirrus Logic video card, which is really not very impressive at all. So the card will do 800 by 600, 256 color. And at the top there is one of those standard SD card to IDE adapters, which I think has an 8 GB card installed. And I don't think we're really able to use large disks in this thing from my recollection. And with that click, I now have all my retro computers on the network at the same time. Truly glorious. Half of the ports on the 8226 are now in use. I don't actually have any more computers to install that have PCI or ISA slots. Very, very sadly, no one makes a PCI Express token ring card. I did try to find one. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the token ring journey. It's been a lot of fun so far, and I do plan to actually keep the system operational. I think there are some legitimate benefits to having an isolated network for retro computers. And the token ring is, you know, obscure enough that people just laugh when I say I have token ring. And they ask me if it's treatable. I don't think it is. I mean, it might be fun to try like a 100 megabit token ring, but I don't really think there's much benefit. Because the only computer that would be even close to be able to handling that would be the server could handle it just fine. I mean, the server here has dual gigabit cards, or a dual port gigabit card installed, and that's fine because it has PCI Express. But the Pentium 2, yeah, it can't really saturate a 16 meg link. I don't think it can saturate a 100 megabit either. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I think the next thing's going to be this DigiDesign audio interface, because that's really cool, and I have a separate blog post about that, as well as the Nubus card, so I'm thinking we'll just show this thing in use. That could be very interesting.